Later on in the Rig Veda itself, where do you get money from? Agninat Raim Asnavat, Agninat Raim Asnavat, Posham Yeva Dividive, Yashasham Viravattamam. It is through Agni that you get gold. Gold is the real money, not dollar or pound or rupees. And how does Agni, the god, creates gold? He converts mud or carbon atoms into gold atoms by intense heat. This is science. And who knows the technology? The technology is known to Agni, the god of fire. He can convert carbon atoms into gold. During the time, many people came to see me. The British were living there. A British collector came and then, I heard that you can, by touch, turn things into gold. And here is my walking stick. Can you turn it into gold? And then he gave it to me and then I just took it and it became gold. And then I gave it to him, he was amazed that it was gold. Then I asked him to give it back, and then I took it back, turned it into wood and gave it back to him. He was not happy about that. And he asked me, how do you do that? I said, you would be able to do that when you have no desire. If you have no desire, you can turn everything into gold. But as simple as that is.
In ancient Indian tradition, Suvarna Siddhi is the mystical perfection of transmuting base metals into gold. This practice is rooted in Dhatu Vada, a specialized branch of Vedic alchemy, Rasa Shastra, focused on elemental transformation. Unlike Western alchemy's pursuit of the philosopher's stone, Dhatu Vada relies heavily on the divine energetic properties of specific elements. The cornerstone of this science is Mercury, Parada, representing Lord Shiva's generative essence, which is combined with sulfur, Gandhika, representing Goddess Shakti's creative energy. The transmutation process requires immense precision and purification. Raw, toxic mercury undergoes 18 rigorous stages, samskaras, involving herbal juices and intense controlled heat, Agni, to stabilize it. When this spiritually charged, perfected mercury is introduced to molten base metals like lead or copper, it is said to trigger a complete atomic reorganization, transforming the lower elements into pure gold. However, generating material wealth was rarely the true objective for ancient yogis and siddhas. Instead, Dhatu Vada served as a proof of concept for a much higher sacred science known as Deha Vada, the perfection of the physical human body. The sages reasoned that if an alchemical elixir could render base metal incorruptible, it could also eradicate disease.
I had no hunger, no thirst, no disease. The diseases were wiped out. But still I had a long way to go.
Halt aging and forge an immortal golden body, Divya Deha. This indestructible physical vessel was deemed necessary to safely sustain the immense electrical voltage of an awakened Kundalini, making the transmutation of metal a physical mirror for the purification of human consciousness.
Imagine for a second, just imagine that you have access to infinite wealth.
Right.
Like, we are talking billions and billions of dollars. You have private jets, mansions on literally every continent, an army of people ready to just fulfill your every single whim. But here is the catch.
Okay.
You have absolutely zero desire to spend a single cent of it on worldly pleasures. Like, none.
Yeah.
No desire for luxury, no desire for power or status or even comfort.
Which is, a pretty wild thought experiment.
Right. You hold the entire world in the palm of your hand, and you are completely, just utterly detached from it. And that incredibly rare psychological state is the focus of some really profound ancient texts we are looking at today. And they argue that this mindset is actually vastly more valuable and way more powerful than the physical wealth itself. The source document for this deep dive is titled The Value of a Perfectly Dispassionate Billionaire.pdf. And the mission today is to figure out why this detached mind is considered rarer than all the goals on Earth.
And you know what that actually means for you, the listener living in the modern world.
Exactly. Okay.
Let's unpack this.
It is a super striking image to start with. And actually, as we sit here looking at this backdrop behind me, it's this sort of starry, ancient cosmic chart layered right over this bustling, hypermodern cityscape.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
Right. And it perfectly captures that collision we're talking about. We are exploring this intersection of universal, really timeless spiritual laws colliding with the absolute peak of modern material wealth.
And it really is a collision because this source document forces us to completely rethink what actual power looks like.
Absolutely. And I think a really great entry point into this material is a concept we all, intuitively understand, basic economics.
All right, supply and demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the physical world, rarity establishes value. Like, why is gold so precious?
Because it's hard to get.
Right. It's incredibly difficult to extract. It requires massive energy to refine, and it's just inherently scarce. I mean, entire empires have risen and fallen over access to it.
Yeah, totally. But the text asks us to kind of elevate our gaze from the material to the spiritual. It wants us to identify the spiritual equivalent of gold.
The rarest commodity of all.
That's the premise. And the text argues that this most precious commodity is a perfectly dispassionate soul.
Wow.
And to understand why it is so rare, we really have to look at the environment we are currently operating in. Because in Vedic cosmology, this era we're in, it's known as the Kali Yuga.
The Iron Age, right.
Right. It is characterized as this cosmic epoch where spiritual darkness, density, and just deep material attachment reign supreme.
Okay, so that sets the stage.
Exactly. So you look around the globe today and you see literal tons of gold consolidated in the hands of modern billionaires. I mean, they wield unimaginable worldly power.
Yeah, they do.
But if you were to scour the entire planet for a perfectly dispassionate billionaire, like someone whose immense external wealth is matched by an absolute, unbroken internal mastery over their senses, you would likely find no one.
Okay, wait, I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least challenge the premise for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Wouldn't a billionaire actually be the easiest person to become completely detached?
How do you mean?
Well, think about it. If you can buy anything, you eventually experience everything. We actually see this today, right? Like tech billionaires going on dopamine fasts, wearing the exact same gray t-shirt every single day.
Right, the whole minimalist aesthetic.
Yeah, so I mean, once the novelty of buying super yachts wears off, wouldn't they naturally just reach a state of dispassion out of sheer boredom? Like trying to stay perfectly dry at the bottom of the ocean, but eventually you just get bored of the water.
That is a very logical assumption, it really is. But it fundamentally misunderstands how these texts describe the trap of the material world, or what they call Maya.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, Maya isn't just the physical stuff you can buy. It is the grand illusion that satisfaction can even be found externally. So the billionaire isn't just sitting in a neutral environment getting bored.
They aren't.
No, they are placed right at the absolute epicenter of a spiritual casino. And the oxygen is constantly being pumped in to keep them at the tables.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So the environment itself is actively working against them.
Heavily. I mean, they are surrounded by what the text calls rajasic influences.
Rajasic meaning?
Well, in Ayurvedic terms, rajasic food and environments, they don't just nourish you. They actively stimulate and agitate the nervous system and the mind.
Oh, wow.
Plus, they are surrounded by sycophants whose entire existence is dedicated to amplifying the billionaire's ego, fulfilling every fleeting whim they have.
Right, yes. Men everywhere.
Exactly. So to maintain absolute unbroken dispassion, which is a state known as Akhanda Brahmacharya, in an environment that's literally designed to hyperstimulate desire, it just defies human comprehension.
The locks on the doors of the casino are poisoned, basically.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
So if the billionaire in the casino is functionally doomed to stay attached, what about the people who completely remove themselves from the casino?
The ascetics.
Right, the ascetics, the monks. The people who actively dedicate their entire lives to achieving this detachment, do they get a pass?
You'd think so, right? But this is where the source introduces the teachings of Sri Swami Sivananda. He's this highly revered sage who wrote extensively on the human condition.
And he has a pretty intense view on this, doesn't he?
He paints a very stark, very blunt picture of the biological trap we are all in. He says that the world is, and I quote, all sexy.
That's a heavy phrase. I mean, it almost sounds a bit extreme to a modern ear.
It does sound extreme, yeah. But he doesn't mean it in a pop culture, superficial way. He argues that humanity is operating under a tremendous sexual intoxication.
Right.
He uses that phrase to describe a fundamental, all-pervading frequency of energy. He explains that this passion, this lust for worldly experience and physical gratification, it isn't just some fleeting thought you can bat away like a fly.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It is the oldest and most deep-rooted instinct in the human constitution. This energy fills the vital life force, or prana, the senses, and literally every single cell, molecule, and electron of the physical body.
And the text also emphasizes that this goes way beyond just our current biology, right? Like, it operates through the subconscious mind via something called samskaras.
Yes, samskaras are huge here.
How exactly do those work? Because the way the text describes them, man, it sounds like we are fighting battles we didn't even start.
That's exactly what it feels like. Think of samskaras as deeply etched neural grooves. Or like imagine a highly compressed zip file of conditioning that you've downloaded from thousands of previous lifetimes.
Oh man, so it's baggage.
A lot of baggage. They are latent energetic imprints indelibly printed on your subconscious. So when a new desire pops into your head, it isn't spontaneous at all.
It feels spontaneous.
Right, but it's not. It is a specific samskara bubbling up to the surface, just demanding to be fed. So you aren't just fighting today's visual temptations. You are fighting the accumulated momentum of lifetimes of desire.
Lifetimes, wow.
Yeah, Sivananda calls it a jugglery of Maya. But to the individual experiencing it, it feels like an undeniable, urgent reality.
I can hear you, the listener, maybe thinking what I was thinking when I read this part. Like, okay, biology is strong. Past life conditioning sounds super intense, but we have massive prefrontal cortices.
A logic argument, right?
Exactly. Surely a highly intellectual person, someone who deeply understands philosophy and logic, can just rationalize their way out of these desires. You just use your giant intellect to say, hey, I recognize this is a samskara, this is an illusion, I choose not to participate.
Sivananda actually anticipates that exact argument, and he directly counters it.
Of course he does.
He states that when a person is under the sway of excitement or passion, their understanding and their reason are completely destroyed.
It's a total system override.
Exactly like a modern neurological amygdala hijack, where the primal brain just completely bypasses the logical prefrontal cortex. The intellect becomes utterly helpless.
Wow.
You can be the smartest person in the room, a literal genius who has memorized every holy book, and you will still fall completely blind to the illusion when the senses are adequately stimulated.
Which totally explains why the source gives some pretty terrifying examples of this happening to the greatest, most disciplined minds of the ancient world.
The sages.
Right. These were men who possessed immense spiritual stamina, who meditated for years on end, and even they were crushed by it.
The stories are definitely meant to be a warning. Take the story of Jaimini, for example. He was a highly learned scholar and the direct student of the great sage Sri Vyasa.
Oh, tell that one, because the psychological nuance of it is just fascinating.
It really is. So Jaimini proudly believed he had completely conquered his senses. I mean, he had studied the texts, he understood the logic, and he thought he was perfectly established in celibacy and entirely free from worldly lust.
He thought he was untouchable.
Exactly. So his guru decided to test the structural integrity of that intellect. During a terrible, raging storm, the guru assumed the form of a beautiful, stranded woman seeking shelter at Jaimini's door.
And what happened?
Despite all of Jaimini's years of rigorous study, despite his vast intellect and his immense pride in his own discipline, his resolve crumbled instantly. The illusion bypassed his intellect entirely.
That is wild. And then there's Rishi Visvamitra.
Yes.
He was practicing incredibly severe austerities, like living out in the harsh wilderness, denying himself every conceivable comfort just to break his samskaras. And the moment he encountered the celestial nymph Manaka, he was just swept away by his turbulent senses. Decades of discipline, gone in a single flash of biological stimulation.
What's fascinating here is the chilling question Sivananda poses after sharing these ancient accounts.
Yeah, what does he ask?
He asks, if great sages like Visvamitra, who were literally living on leaves, air, and water in the harsh Himalayas, were still victims of this intoxication, what should be the fate of worldly people who are living on rich food, and surrounded by modern comforts.
Man, it's incredibly sobering. If the guy starving in a cave for a decade can't beat the trap, the billionaire eating caviar on a yacht is effectively defenseless.
Defenseless.
But this brings up a massive logical question. If the biological, psychological, and karmic deck is stacked so heavily against us that even the masters fail, why would anyone even try?
That's the real question.
Right. What is the actual payoff that makes fighting this impossible battle worth it?
Well, the payoff, according to these traditions, is immense world-altering power. When a rare soul actually achieves that state of an Akhanda Brahmachari, a true perfect celibate, they strictly restrain their external senses.
Okay.
But that primal biological energy of creation, it doesn't just evaporate.
Right, because energy cannot be destroyed, basic physics.
Yeah.
So where does it actually go?
It undergoes an alchemical transformation. Think of it like a hydraulic system.
By hydraulic system, okay.
If you take the most potent biological force, that drive for creation, and instead of releasing it outward, you cap it, immense pressure builds up. That energy is then deflected upwards, traveling up the spine into the brain, where it is stored as something called Ojasakti.
Or just Sakti. It's like spiritual voltage.
That's a great way to describe it. It is the highest form of alchemical transformation within the human body. The text states that a person who attains this perfect mental and physical purity commands a power that literally borders on the divine.
Because they've mastered themselves.
Exactly. Because they have mastered the energy within their own microcosm, they can command the macrocosm. They can move the world. They can blow up mountains. They command nature and the 5 elements.
It's just staggering.
The text beautifully phrases it. All cities and riddhis roll under his feet, which means all spiritual perfections and material wealth are constantly at their command, ready to obey.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because we need to look at a specific modern example the source provides. It really challenges our whole understanding of reality.
Dr. Pillai's account.
Yes, Dr. Pillai, whose teachings are heavily featured in the document, he talks about the great Siddha, Swami Ramalingam.
Mm-hmm.
To demonstrate the sheer undeniable power of this Ojasakti and pure dispassion, Swami Ramalingam did something incredible. He took the plain wooden walking stick of a British tax collector, and right there, through pure grace and intention, he transmuted that wood into solid, pure gold.
It's a phenomenal anecdote, and it's so important to understand the philosophy behind it rather than just viewing it as some kind of magic trick.
Right, it's not a parlor trick.
Not at all. In Vedic thought, physical matter, like that wooden stick, is just dense, slow-moving energy. So if a master like Ramalingam has perfected his internal energy, his Ojasakti, it means his consciousness is vibrating at the absolute highest frequency of pure creation.
Okay, I follow.
When he directs that high-frequency intention at the low-frequency wood, the external matter basically has no choice but to submit. It has to rearrange itself to match his command. He transmuted base elements into gold not to get rich, but to demonstrate the undeniable supremacy of spirit over matter.
Wow. So if we take that level of mastery, that pure, unattached power, and place it into the body of someone operating in the world of high finance today, what would that dispassionate billionaire actually look like? Like, how would they deploy their resources?
Well, they would view their billions entirely differently than a standard billionaire because they have achieved total sublimation. Meaning their mind is completely free of lustful thoughts and attachments. They see the one underlying eternal self in all beings. They recognize the money as just a temporary, illusory play of energy.
Okay.
But critically, because they are immune to the ego, they wouldn't fall into the trap of modern philanthropy.
Wait, really? That's a fascinating distinction. You mean the kind of philanthropy where the underlying motivation is, look at my legacy, put my name in bronze on the new hospital wing.
Precisely that. Modern philanthropy, even when it's genuinely helpful, is so often deeply entangled with the ego's desire for legacy, control, and societal praise.
Right, there's a string attached.
Always. But a truly dispassionate billionaire is immune to those samskaras. They would deploy their wealth with flawless divine intelligence. They wouldn't care at all about their name on a building.
They just do the work.
Exactly. They would operate simply as a pure conduit for the universe, moving resources exactly where they are required to alleviate suffering or elevate consciousness without a single shred of personal attachment to the outcome.
I want to pause here and represent you, the listener, for a moment, because if you're listening to this and you are grounded in modern science and everyday reality, you might be feeling a bit alienated right now.
It is a lot to take in.
It is. We've talked about a spiritual casino that's completely rigged against you,
Yeah.
ancient sliches failing after decades in the Himalayas, and masters transmuting wood into gold through high-frequency spiritual hydraulics.
Yeah, it's intense.
It is awe-inspiring, but it feels completely unreachable for someone who just wants to improve their mind, pay their mortgage, and maybe find some peace. So, is there any practical hope for the everyday learner?
That is the most crucial question we can ask.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the source document shifts its tone to deliver incredibly good news here.
Okay, good.
According to the teachings of Dr. Pillai, the cosmos is currently undergoing a massive fundamental shift. We are actually transitioning out of that dense, dark period of the Kali Yuga, and we are entering the Swarna Yuga, which is the Golden Age.
Okay, so for the listener who is naturally skeptical, hearing about, new cosmic frequencies and shifting ages might sound a little bit sci-fi.
Sure.
How should we practically interpret this shift? Are we talking about a literal change in the physics of the universe, or is it more of a shift in collective human consciousness?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is described as a bit of both. But its practical application is really what matters to the listener.
Okay.
The Kali Yuga was characterized by heavy restrictive density. That's why breaking your samskaras required grueling, decades-long physical penance in a cave just to make a tiny millimeter of spiritual progress.
The environment was just working against you.
Exactly. But the Swarna Yuga brings a completely new paradigm. It is a paradigm of light, of vastly accelerated manifestation, and rapid spiritual liberation.
So it's like the resistance in the wires is dropping, the rules of the game are changing.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. Yes, the resistance is dropping. What was once impossibly difficult for even the most rigorous ascetic is now becoming accessible to the everyday person.
That's amazing.
The alchemical transformation of the mind, that ability to untether yourself from the agonizing cycle of desires, fears, and delusions, it is opening up to all people on Earth. You do not need to abandon your family, quit your job, and move to a Himalayan cave. Right. This transformation is now available to you wherever you are, through grace, devotion, and alignment with this shifting cosmic timeline.
Man, that brings a huge sense of relief.
Yeah.
And it highlights the ultimate point of why we are diving into this ancient text today. Because we look at our modern world, and it is visibly scarred.
Deeply.
We have man-made conflicts, massive economic disparity, terrifying environmental crises. And what the source makes very clear is that the standard billionaires of the world, the ones who are just hoarding the physical gold in the casino, for all their staggering wealth, they cannot purchase global harmony.
No, they can't.
They can't even buy inner tranquility for themselves, let alone for the entire planet.
They can't, because the root of the world's crises is not political, and it is not economic. It is entirely spiritual.
Yeah.
The world does not need more standard billionaires trying to bandage a broken system with ego-driven wealth. What the world desperately needs are souls who have mastered themselves.
So how do you do that? How do you, the listener, take this really dense philosophy and actually apply it to your Tuesday morning?
The practical steps.
Right. The source document ends with an urgent invitation, breaking it down into 3 actionable takeaways for building the ultimate sanctuary, which is the sanctuary of a pure mind.
Exactly. The first step is to acknowledge the illusion. We have to understand deeply and practically what Sivananda taught. The beauty, the status, and the pleasure we constantly chase in the external world, they are really just mental concepts.
They're a mirage.
They are projections of your own samskaras. Real beauty and true eternal joy only reside within the Atman, the core self. You really have to stop chasing the mirage.
Right. Recognize the casino for what it is. And then the second step is to direct your intention. Realize that the biological energy you spend chasing worldly desires is incredibly potent.
Extreme.
If you can conquer the turbulence of your own mind and restrain those external senses, you are tapping into the exact same Ojasakti that creates and transmutes matter. You hold the master key to reality, right inside your own nervous system.
And the third, and perhaps most important step in this new golden age, is to pray for grace.
Yeah.
The text is very clear that the complete eradication of worldly passion cannot be achieved through your personal effort alone. I mean, we saw what happened to the sages. Your intellect will eventually fail.
Your willpower will eventually fatigue.
Exactly. To clear those deep subconscious grooves, you require divine grace. You have to humbly ask the universe to help lift the veil.
So what does this all mean for you? It means that you don't need $1 billion in your bank account to be the most valuable resource on this planet. By stepping consciously into the Swarna Yuga, by actively detaching from the illusions of Maya and redirecting your internal energy, You become a beacon of genuine power. You gain the alchemical ability to turn the heavy, painful lead of human suffering into the radiant gold of divine consciousness.
You become far more precious and far more powerful than all the physical gold hidden in all the bank vaults on Earth.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something to just sit with in the quiet moments of your day. The text argues that the passions and desires that bind us are incredibly deep-rooted, that every beautiful thing you've ever desired in the physical world is, as Sivananda claims, merely a mental concept printed from previous births.
Right.
So here's the question. If we're truly entering this golden age of detachment, what happens to our deeply held human concepts of love or ambition? If you successfully strip away all passionate biological attachment to the world, do you lose what makes you human? Or do you finally discover what humanity was supposed to be all along?